repping Izzy today, man. I don't care that he lost. He's still the GOAT, bro. Nonetheless, he is still the GOAT. Anyways, this is the UFC 6 wish list. Today, we're going to be talking about both what we want and need in UFC 6. Now, this video is mostly just going to be focused on additional features outside of gameplay because, as we all know, there's a lot of things wrong in UFC 5 with the gameplay that need to be fixed in UFC 6. So I think that's just going to have to be an additional video. Recently, y'all, we hit 4K subs, so I want to say thank y'all for that, man. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button if you do end up enjoying the video. Without further ado, let's get to it. So first up, I got better or more in-depth customization for creative fighters. Now that includes things like gis. I swear, I don't know if it was UFC Undisputed, I don't know if it was UFC 2, it was an older UFC game, I swear. It might have just been in the creation menu for something as a walkout, but I swear you used to be able to have a gi on your fighter. It would be pretty cool if you could actually wear that during a fight. Some of y'all might say it sounds kind of ridiculous, but come on, take a look at today's creative fighters. We also need more hairstyles because if you scroll through some of these hairstyles that we got now, yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. Boxing shoes and gloves would also be something that would be really cool to see, along with custom mouth guards and custom shorts. And by that, I actually mean being able to design them in whatever way you want, text and color included. So, you know, presets that EA gives you, but actually being able to design them with different shapes to actually have legitimate custom shorts. And lastly, I have being able to create your own gym for things like free training, you know, practicing combos and whatnot. So being able to put up your own logos, your own colors. The thing is, a lot of these things might seem like such a small thing. You might think, oh, customization is not that important. And I'll be honest, that is partially true. But I promise you, a bunch of well-designed small features are exactly what make a good game. The problem is EA tries to go for the big stuff now and always forgets about the small stuff. Up next, we got Pride mode. I know this is something a lot of people have already talked about. I think it's really just because of how brutal Pride was. The soccer kicks and stomps, like damn, bro, is that really necessary? Because like the thing is, we have Pride fighters but no Pride mode. We also have to be really careful what we mean by this because EA probably just thinks we want rainbow haired fighters with zesty fighting stances. Like just imagine this, having the Pride Grand Prix mode, the Pride GP, you know, where it's tournament style. Like imagine a pool of 16 players online competing, and then when you win, you move on. If you lose, get the hell out of here. But then your damage would carry over from that fight that you just won into the next one, making the fights get harder and harder as they go on. And they probably also get a lot more intense, which in turn makes them a lot more fun. I think that's one of the biggest features EA should add just because of how many people actually want it. Now this does technically include Pride mode, but it has a lot more to it, so I decided to keep it out of it. But up next we got leagues, promotions, and more venues. So that would include PFL, GFL, Bellator, even Ryzen and One. Now the problem with this, more leagues and game modes means more players spread out across the game doing different things, which increases the matchmaking time by quite a bit. And I just don't think enough people play UFC 5 for them to have all these different leagues and promotions. The UFC community is still relatively small compared to other sports such as football or soccer even. But that brings us to the next thing, crossplay. That is something that would help solve the problem. With crossplay, it'll be much easier to find matches and a lot quicker since the player base then becomes bigger since, you know, it's mixed. It would also be cool to see the game on PC, even though most people play sports games on console, but it's still going to bring in quite a few more people. Following that, we have a more in-depth and improved career mode. I haven't played a lot of UFC 5's career mode, and it feels really bland and not that immersive, and that is probably why I haven't played that much of it. EA needs to put a lot more effort into career mode. I'm not just talking gameplay, right? Leave gameplay out of this for basically everything that I'm saying. I'm talking about the presentation of it, the system itself. Add things like press conference, weigh-ins, anything that would make the game much more like real life. Like imagine being able to answer questions at press conferences and you have different options, right? One that's more humble or one that's a little more arrogant. And depending on that option that you choose, your opponent becomes more aggressive or more passive, and it would somehow affect their fighting style. They have to add these role-playing game, RPG type elements to the game because, you know, that's kind of the whole point of career mode, to role play. You're literally role playing a career. Next up, we got game modes. Now, UFC 5 does have a fair selection of game modes, but they're kind of mid. Like some people play the backyard, but Kumai or Kumite, however you say the game mode, who is playing that shit? Come on. I don't think I've ever once loaded up the game and said, oh yeah, I want to play that game mode. They gotta add things like bare knuckle mode. I mean, like, hey, it would just be a visual thing, but at the end of the day, so is the backyard and Kumite. They could also add some like grappling only, jujitsu only. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I genuinely don't know who would play that. That seems boring as shit. But instead of stand and bang, it would be something like sit and suck or roll and pole or whatever bullshit you want to call it. Also, custom rules would be the best thing ever for online multiplayer. Like, I know you technically can do that with friends, custom rules where you just agree upon only doing a certain thing, but actually having it built into the game would be so much better. Like, imagine things like no blocking, one punch KOs, just anything to make the game have more variety than it currently does. Next up, we got commentators. Now, that's a very small request in comparison to a lot of the other things I just said. Please put in the option to use the older commentators. And y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. Mike Goldberg. Y'all gotta add him, man. He's too iconic. I miss hearing that "here we go" and the just like that. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Joe Rogan. Bring my man back in too, man. Get Joe Rogan back in here. And also, please, EA, please give us just a few more commentator lines. I'm tired of hearing "huge right hand" every 2 seconds. And last but not least, we got the honorable mention. Ultimate Team. Oh, I know I got a lot of reactions from that one. Now, this hasn't been a thing since UFC 3, and there is a good reason for that. Now, my big worry is that if they add this back in, they're only going to focus on that. That is exactly what they do in FIFA and exactly what they do in Madden. Now, that's probably going to mean that the other game modes are going to be a lot more mediocre. And let's be real, it never really was all that good. It has to be done just right, and that's so hard to do because MMA is an individual sport. How do you build a team-based game mode around a sport where it's one-on-one? It just doesn't work unless they figure out some way to actually make it work. Let me know if that's something you guys want to see in UFC 6. Also, feel free to comment your own ideas, suggestions of what features EA should add, or if y'all agree or even disagree with some of the stuff I just said. But if y'all like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll see y'all boys in the next one, man. Peace.